The decision by the Caribbean Examinations Council (CXC) to discontinue offering 4 STEM subjects at the CSEC level is not going down well in Jamaica. The point being raised by stakeholders is, why is this a necessary move given that the region and Jamaica should be looking to boost the teaching of STEM subjects and the adoption of same in order to train the workers of the future? That's the issue I'll be discussing this evening on Lead Story here on CVM TV. Welcome to Lead Story here on CVM TV. My name is George Davis. Now, in an environment where countries across the world and in this part of the world, in this region, the Caribbean, are looking to increase their offerings where STEM subjects are concerned, the teaching of STEM subjects, and the hope is that students absorb the lessons in STEM subjects so that they can be more dynamic workers in the future. The Caribbean Examinations Council (CXC) has announced that it intends to discontinue offering 4 subjects under the STEM umbrella at the Caribbean Secondary Examination Certificate level, the CSEC level. That decision not going down well with education stakeholders who say this is a retrograde step, given that this will this will interfere with the process of training the workers for the future. The worker of the future should be dynamic, should be well versed in technology, should be well versed in mathematics, should be able to infuse technology and higher integrated levels of mathematics into their work, because that will be what the jobs of the future will require, shedding away, of course, moving away from the manual nature of the work which still exists in large measure in this present moment. And they're saying if CXC is doing this, then we have no hope of training up the workers who will match what the requirements are on the job market or in the job market in the future. Stakeholders have had their say. There's a meeting that's set to be had in a couple of days, perhaps here in Jamaica, perhaps online, with stakeholders all across the region. It's going to be across the region because it's going to be a Zoom meeting of ministers of education to discuss the issue and to see if there can be a way found around going this route, because the real argument is, how do you sustain the workers of the future if you're doing something now that will rob them of a key part of their education? Ramon Gordon has been examining the issue for CVM TV, and he prepared this report.
Jamaica's Education Ministry and regional partners are challenging a recent decision by the Caribbean Examinations Council to discontinue a slate of science and technology courses at the CSEC level. Now, the regional body is being accused of making that decision unilaterally without due consultations with stakeholders.
At a post-cabinet press briefing on Wednesday, Education Minister Favour Williams said they're taking the matter to CARICOM.
Other colleague education ministers are very concerned about this discontinuance decision, and as a body, we have decided to take the matter to the Council for Human and Social Development. I want to assure Jamaicans that the Ministry of Education and Youth is fully in support of the continuance of these 4 subjects.
Should CXC's decision stand, agricultural science, double award only, industrial technology and mechanical engineering at the CSEC level would be among the subjects on the chopping block. Interestingly, the move to discontinue these subjects would coincide with a recent announcement by the Prime Minister declaring Jamaica a, quote, STEM island. Speaking with the CVM News Wednesday, the Education Minister criticized the decision of the Regional Exam Authority.
This announcement was made prematurely, was made public prematurely. CXC is always within its rights to look at its list of exams and to see how many students are taking them, to compare the cost of doing it to the number of students. But they must discuss with us.
CXC will convene a meeting with the regional education partners on June 4, ahead of the planned sit-down with CARICOM officials. The minister is hoping for compromise.
We think it's very solvable. All the ministers that are in this WhatsApp group, they've indicated that they want continuation of these programs. So I cannot see how CXC would not abide by what comes out of this meeting.
Ramon Gordon for CVM News.
All right, Raman, thank you very much for that report. So that sets the stage for what we're about to discuss. I'm being joined by Ed Wallace. He is the president, well, a member of the Jamaica Association of Secondary Institutions to wade through this issue. Good evening, Ed. Welcome to the program.
Good afternoon. How are you, sir?
I'm very well. This announcement by CXC is obviously represents rather a misalignment with what Jamaica's stated goals and objectives are in the education sector, insofar as training up the next generation of workers is concerned. Wouldn't you agree?
I do agree. I said I, but indeed, the organization that I'm currently representing as we speak is aligned with the argument that this is a backward step.
Yeah. So CXC, let's start at the top, because they've said, look, it's straight economics. The subscription numbers, in other words, the number of students doing these subjects in schools across the region and then sitting them at exams, it's too low to sustain these programs. Are you taking that as a sensible argument, Ed Wallace?
I don't want to use the term sensible, but it's not a very good argument, because indeed the reason why we've picked STEM as a winner at this time is because we are short on the skills in the science technology area. So we know that, and that is what we're trying to build. To take out STEM subjects at this point in time runs counter to that objective. And it's not only for Jamaica, but also for the whole Caribbean, for Caribbean development. We know that it's going to hit us hard as a nation, but for Caribbean development, it's a big deal.
But you see, I asked you if the move made sense, and you didn't. Well, you shied away from saying it doesn't make sense. I can understand why, but to me, it doesn't seem sensible, especially when, as you say, the worker of the future has to have a particular set of skills, and STEM education is the pathway to giving the workers, outfitting them with those skills. And if at the formative educational level, those subjects, some key subjects, are not going to be offered, then it is undermining the collective effort of not just education stakeholders in Jamaica, but the entire region.
Well, the concept of the argument that you make out, I agree with. But I'm one of those persons who speak carefully because I get a sense that nowadays we use stronger language than we necessarily need to express the ideas that we're trying to express.
Yes.
And that is why I backed away from the idea of saying that it doesn't make sense.
Yes.
The fact of the matter is not consistent with our national objective. It is not, that step is not consistent with our regional objective, I would think.
Very well.
And
All
so,
right. Let's Ed Wallace, let's probe for sense in this move then. No problem. Let's probe for sense, because here we go. On the straight economics argument, doesn't CXC have a point though? Because in any business, and let's face it, CXC are running a business, albeit one concerned with educating the youth in the nation. They are running a business. It's an organization with a business to run. Any business, let me make the point, Ed. Any business where you have low take-up in a particular area, that particular area is up for the call. And CXC has said, well, it's one thing to talk about the need for STEM education and the number of youngsters across the region who are being directed into the area of STEM education. But there are not enough students sitting these exams and doing these subjects to make it sensible for us to consider expending resources to prepare for these examinations. So it's a common sense call by CXC, they would say, to call these subjects. How do you respond?
Common sense, if in effect what CXC's objective is to make profit. Common sense in that area. If we are needing to develop Caribbean nations and Jamaica in particular, there are some sacrifices that we will have to make. STEM has really just started. We've just been putting the emphasis on STEM. So we don't expect a return on investment immediately, even from the social engineering that is about to come out of STEM. We don't expect the results tomorrow. We don't expect it next year. And so to pin the argument to shut down any STEM subject is based on economics is just fundamentally wrong,
Yeah.
given the broader objective.
So as if you've won that round of the argument, if indeed my premise is what CXC is actually saying, Ed Wallace. I welcome the opposition spokesman on education, Senator Damian Crawford, to the discussion. Good evening, sir.
My brother, how are you doing? Good evening.
It is well with me, my brother. I hope it is well with you as well. So here we are, Senator Crawford, talking about this decision that CXC, well, on the one hand, we're hearing that they've made the decision. On the other hand, they say they are poised to make a decision subject to discussions with ministers of education across the region. But you've seen on paper what they are posturing to do. Your perspective on the move by CXC?
Well, the fact of the case is that the CXC wrote to the ministers and gave them a basis upon which the courses could be offered. So while CXC says that all things held constant, they wouldn't be offering these courses, some within the next year and some within the next 2 years, depending on if it's CXC, 2 years, and if it's CAPE, 1 year. And that was based on the selection of courses. 10th graders would have selected courses, and so by extension, 2 years would have satisfied those who selected in 10th grade. They also gave the opportunity for the cost to be covered by the ministers, and by extension, the courses to be offered, even though the critical mass wasn't achieved. What I do believe, however, is that the arguments have been exaggerated. For example, agriculture double major is not the average agriculture courses that we always do. The CXC single option agriculture remains, but the double option, which didn't get a lot of persons, that would have been removed. So the major problem, I believe, is that the students are not encouraged to participate in these courses, partially because teachers might not be available, and partially because the laboratories that can afford for these courses to be delivered are not equipped in many schools.
Yeah, that's the perspective. So you're saying that the noise being made, certainly from Jamaica, from the perspective of the Education Ministry, are you suggesting that it may be a bit alarmist?
Well, the people who are getting half the information, they're the one that seems to be particularly distraught. I'm not heard from the ministry.
The minister did respond today. The minister did respond today, Senator Crawford, at postcab to say that she was, in my words, distressed by the decision, and that the ministry will be willing, the government will be willing to go to CARICOM to prevent CXC from putting the trigger on these specific subject areas.
But CXC already indicated what it would take not to pull the trigger. They indicated that they needed 3,000 persons to pay the fees, and that if 3,000 persons were not there, the fees would have to be subsidized by the government. So there's no need to go to CARICOM. It is simply to pay the subsidy to make those courses be offered. And this is not an abnormal request by any institution that has to pay its own bills. When we were in the Ministry of Tourism and we wanted to expand the countries willing to come to Jamaica, or the destination, if we wanted to open Michigan, we had to pay seat support, which means we had to subsidize the airplanes coming from Michigan until it built enough of a market to fill the plane. So I don't understand that. I didn't hear it personally, but going to CARICOM when an alternative was presented sounds crazy to me.
Yeah, well, what we're going to do for your benefit, Senator Crawford, is that after the break, coming from the break, we're going to play back that report that Ramon Gordon filed, which included the comments from the minister, so you can be clear on what she said. But just before we go to the break, Ed Wallace, you were saying before Senator Crawford came that there are just some costs that individual governments will have to bear to facilitate the learning of their population, the training of their population, and in this specific case, examinations in subject areas that can build the country in the future. And that's something you would commit to this government to do what it takes in this regard, as it relates to these STEM subjects.
I think that would be the position of our organization, Jamaica Association of Chairmen of Secondary Schools. That would be our position.
Excellent. Hear you on that. Hold the line, gentlemen. We're going to take a break and come right back with more. This is Lead Story on CVM TV, talking about education and the report that CXC looking to call for STEM subjects from the curricula, from offering them at the exam level because of low take-up rate among students across the region.
The time by Grace. Taste that moves you is
6:45.
Attention homeowners, property managers, plumbers, and contractors. Jamaica Plumbing Supplies is having a store-wide sale with up to 20% off. Need to upgrade your bathroom or kitchen? From pipes and fittings to fixtures, basins, showers, and bathtubs. Power your plumbing projects with our variety of tools. Hurry up! The discount lasts 1 week only, May 27th to June 1st. Visit us at 56 Malines Road or 62 Congreve Park, Portmore. Jamaica Plumbing Supplies. Let's save water. Condition supply.
The big chef that
Colonel Charles Jr., Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries.
And this week episode, I have the pleasure of having the Honorable Colonel Charles Jr. here with me, right on Cooking with Love. The smell kicking.
Real chef business. Don't play around with it, yeah? Grow smart, eat smart.
You ready for this?
That is off the chain. I wasn't thinking that at all. Growing our food, to eat our food, this is the way. So we're taking the Chef Simpson method.
You have the kit.
We have been distributing backyard farming kits. Don't play with me. Oh my God.
STEM education under the microscope, consequent upon the news from CXC that it is intending to cut 4 subjects from the curriculum, not offering them at the CSEC level because of low subscription. We have key stakeholders responding to that development. The opposition spokesman on education, Senator Damian Crawford, alongside the man who's the chairman of the school board at Cedric Titus High, Ed Wallace. He's also a member of the Jamaica Association of Chairmen of Secondary Schools in Jamaica. I did promise Senator Crawford for his own understanding, and so that I quote the minister accurately, a package that we prepared, Ramon Gordon prepared, coming out of today's post-cabinet press briefing. That package also includes a one-on-one interview with the minister at the end, a short package to put the perspective on the government's position and reaction to this issue, and we'll take that package again.
Jamaica's Education Ministry and regional partners are challenging a recent decision by the Caribbean Examinations Council to discontinue a slate of science and technology courses at the CSEC level. Now, the regional body is being accused of making that decision unilaterally without due consultations with stakeholders.
At a post-cabinet press briefing on Wednesday, Education Minister Favour Williams said they're taking the matter to CARICOM.
Other colleague education ministers are very concerned about this discontinuance decision, and as a body, we have decided to take the matter to the Council for Human and Social Development. I want to assure Jamaicans that the Ministry of Education and Youth is fully in support of the continuance of these 4 subjects.
Should CXC's decision stand, agricultural science, double award only, industrial technology, and mechanical engineering at the CSEC level would be among the subjects on the chopping block. Interestingly, the move to discontinue these subjects would coincide with a recent announcement by the Prime Minister declaring Jamaica a, quote, STEM island. Speaking with the CVM News Wednesday, the Education Minister criticized the decision of the Regional Exam Authority.
This announcement was made prematurely, was made public prematurely. CXC is always within its rights to look at its list of exams and to see how many students are taking them, to compare the cost of doing it to the number of students. But they must discuss with us.
CXC will convene a meeting with the regional education partners on June 4, ahead of the planned sit-down with CARICOM officials. The minister is hoping for compromise.
We think it's very solvable. All the ministers that are in this WhatsApp group, they've indicated that they want continuation of these programs. So I cannot see how CXC would not abide by what comes out of this meeting.
Ramon Gordon for CVM News.
All right, Senator Crawford, you've heard the minister there. She is asserting that CXC didn't discuss this issue at length before the correspondence about the decision was made public, and that she's hopeful now that after that sit down with ministers that good sense will prevail and that the programs will continue. Your perspective?
I can't speak to the level of discussion between the minister and the CXC. I was not present, nor have I been informed. However, the minister seems to be taking tales out of school based on what was presented by the CXC. If a examination body, CXC doesn't offer the tutelage of any course. It designs the syllabus or the syllabi based on international standards, and it delivers exams to ensure that the syllabus was satisfactorily delivered. If CXC says that in 2026, 2 years from now, we will not be offering these courses, save and except that countries that want the continuation meet the cost, then I don't understand the statement of going to the human development. It simply means to have a conversation with CXC as to what are the costs and how we can meet them. So if it is that we need to offer these courses, the minister needs to speak truthfully. What number of high schools have satisfactory laboratories to teach and train industrial techniques, agriculture to the dual level, and mechanical engineering? Very few schools have that opportunity. Secondly, even among the schools that have those laboratories in place, what quantity of schools have teachers available to deliver up until the CXC level, meaning 10th and 11th grade? Because those are some of the teachers that have been highly recruited. So the chickens that have come home to roost are not laid by the CXC, but have been laid by ignoring of the circumstances of teacher migration and laboratory development. We have called since 2 years ago for the Heart Trust NTA to put $5 billion per year into the development of STEM labs and vocational labs within our schools. So at the high school level, it will mean that we can do 100 labs approximately at $50 million per year. For the next 3 years, the Heart is getting over $20 billion per year. So without those types of investments, I think that they're passing the buck onto the victim, meaning CXC, more than doing the necessary things that are to be done.
Hear you. Ed Wallace, based on what you know about the state of schools across the island, do you agree with the argument that where the teaching, where teachers are concerned, there is a shortage there, and where the standard of laboratories across schools is concerned, there is a serious deficiency there, sufficient for us to be in a position where we're not able to attract enough students to these subject levels to make a representative cohort available to sit these exams at CXC?
All right. There's no doubt that there is some lack that exists in our schools, but these are not shortfalls that cannot be fixed and fixed quickly. And so I don't know that with 2 years to the suspension of these subjects, we don't have time to recover and put things in place to defer that proposed cutoff of those subjects. All right? So yes, there lack. I think that if the government is willing, if the Jamaican people are willing, we can get the resources into the schools. Currently, we have space. We perhaps need some machinery. We perhaps need, some equipment.
Yes.
But we can get it done.
And Senator Crawford, for those who were initially angry at CXC consequent upon the announcement, should we perhaps be congratulating for giving regional governments 2 years to get their house in order where these 4 subject areas are concerned?
That was a reasonable action to take, because the 2 years would mean that any 10th grader that chose the subject would not have been disenfranchised, because he would have had the opportunity to do 11th grade and then do the exam. So CXC was preemptive to say don't offer these courses to the 9th grader going into 10th grade at the selection for courses, because that person would not have an exam to do, save and except that the government is willing to pay. But I'm saying if you do the mathematics of the reality, 3,500 across the entire Caribbean. We have 36,000 people in 11th grade. That's 10% of the Jamaican population to do the exam. Of the Caribbean population, it might be 6% or 7%. So, I mean, the population meaning those in 11th grade.
Got you.
So the fact that we can't find 6% shows that there is either a systematic problem in the ability to offer it, or an interest problem. Students are not interested, and none of those are CXC's duty to correct.
Yeah. Can Ed Wallace, well, should Ed Wallace, the Ministry of Education, in its deliberations and its planning to get students into these subject areas, well, I guess the question is, what can they do to encourage more take-up, more interest? Is that something that schools do? Should they have, I don't want to call it an advertising blitz or a promotional campaign in schools, but should they do something specific and targeted to direct students into these STEM areas, given their importance?
Perhaps the blitz is exactly what it needs. I don't see a problem with showing students what exactly exists out there in the field of engineering, agriculture, and electrical, mechanical. I don't see an issue with promoting those and showing the students that there is a way for good livelihood through these careers.
Yeah, and finally,
but George,
yes.
The minister had an excellent idea that she seemed to have abandoned, which was to introduce the exposure to STEM and vocational careers in primary schools,
yes,
including the earnings, etc. So one of the realities is many of our children are unaware of anything outside a lawyer, doctor, Indian chief.
Yes.
And so when they're selecting courses based on careers that they have chosen, they don't know of many of the vocational careers, nor the returns that they can provide. So she had a wonderful idea that she has not implemented, to introduce just the exposure to it, not the training in it, but the exposure to these vocational careers.